Hello and welcome. My name is Laolu Akonde and you are on to Inside Sources. And here is my take for the week. Recently, we spoke here about the need for state police to be properly established in our country. And we must note that indeed concerted efforts are now being made for the proper establishment of state policing in Nigeria. Kudos to Mr. President and the governors. Today, let us offer a few immediate measures that the federal government and in some instances the state government could consider at a time like this. Number one, and this is the first by all means, it applies both to the federal and the state government. It is important for government to be consistently engaging with the people. Such interactions offer government a feedback loop that enables them to hear from the people what they think might be helpful in situations like this. Now, the advantage is this will ease tension and it will restore hope, offering the possibility of restoration to normalcy. Number two, there is the need for a significant cutback of financial excesses on the part of top government officials. This will show the people some austere attitude. At the time that government is telling Nigerians to tighten their belts, and Nigerians have no choice, let us see government and the leaders do the same. Number three, the president must insist that governors become more responsible, especially in how they utilize the significant increase in funds that has come into effect, especially since the removal of subsidy and naira devaluation. More naira is being shared. The president must encourage the governors using his bully pulpit to ensure that this additional funding go all the way to the people. Number four, it is also important to caution some of the governors who normally on a monthly basis change significant parts of their FAC allocation to dollars in the parallel market. That itself affects the devaluation of the naira. Such questionable behavior ought to be stopped, especially now. And it's been done before. Number five, the president and state governors should also consider different ideas to address the food crisis in the country, especially regarding the transportation of food products from the farms to the market. It is important to remove all illegal tolls and fees imposed on the transportation of farm produce to the markets. Number six, it's a question. What has happened to the CNG buses? This is now several months after the promises of CNG buses on our street. Has anybody seen a CNG bus in Abuja, for instance? It's important, Mr. President and state governors, to ensure that the CNG buses are on the streets and very urgently. Number seven, there is also an urgent need to restore the social investment program, especially the conditional cash transfer at a time like this. And finally, the government should muster all its law enforcement capacity to ensure that the directive that CBN has given to the banks to help deal with the naira devaluation are effectively implemented. For instance, about 3 weeks ago, CBN ordered the banks to release foreign exchange that has been ordered in their vaults. CBN gave them 24 hours to do it. Has that been enforced? How many banks have done this? And which banks have refused to do this? There has to be consequences. Mr. President and governors, these are few of the things that should be considered as we come together as a people to find our way out of these very, very difficult times. And there you have my take. Inside Sources will be right back. Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today I have with me a leading opposition figure in the Senate. He was formerly the deputy governor in Abia State. between 1999 and 2003 or thereabout, and then has been a senator since 2007, up to date. Currently, he is an APGA senator in the National Assembly, a very impressive Nigerian. I want to welcome Senator Iyinaya Abaribe.
Thank you, Laolu.
Welcome to Inside Sources.
Thank you very much. I'm very glad to be here.
I normally start the conversation, about the Nigerian future by asking my guests, if you look at where the country is today, do you think that the country, our nation, is on the trajectory to that Nigeria, that great or greater Nigeria that we all dream? Are we on course, in your view?
Well, I would say that we are not. I think that Nigeria, unfortunately, has suffered a dearth of leadership committed to the country. And I'm very measured when I make this type of pronouncements. And the reason is simple, too, is that you find that whenever you say the truth, it's always twisted. Oh, you're in the opposition. Oh, you don't like us. Oh, it's because your own person didn't win. Those type of things. And then, of course, the conversation gets lost in the brickbats that follow. But I'm particular that we need to continue to talk about Nigeria. We need to talk about our deficiencies, which are much. And I also we need to talk about the fact that the trajectory we're following will probably lead to an implosion. And it has been a long time coming. And it's not just that I'm talking about it today. I have been consistently talking about it since I entered the National Assembly. From the time that I wasn't even up to the time I was minority leader, and people could see what I was always talking about. Unfortunately, when I was minority leader and when we were talking about the trajectory the country was following at that time under the last government, the impression was being given, first, that I was Igbo-centric. Then, secondly, that, he's opposition, so what else are you expected to hear from him? But the point is that it's only the opposition, too, that we point out to the government in power where they are going wrong. And then tell them to make some changes. So it's not necessary that every opposition person is destructive.
What do we have to do to get back on course? Since it's your view that we are not on course, what do you think has to happen?
Essentially, two things. First, if you look at our polity, you will find that there is a very clear divide now, unlike before, between the haves and the have-nots. Before, there could be a trajectory for you to move from wherever you are into the middle class. From the middle class, you can go up. The divide wasn't as much as it is today.
The divide has become stark.
It's so stark. And another thing is that enlightened self-interest is no longer what the elite think about. I mean, you cannot see that people are suffering and you still come in their face to show them that they are the downtrodden. You don't do that, because all you're doing is that you're stoking embers that will erupt later in the life of the nation. And so, first, the country must walk away from ostentation. It's too much. I mean,
you mean the political leaders?
Yes. When I say the country, I'm talking about those who are running the country. Okay. It's us.
Yeah, it's important to
you understand?
Yes.
We must walk away from ostentation. We must show that we also have empathy. We must also show that if you're asking people to tighten their belt, you must also show that you are tightening some yourself. You understand?
Right.
And so we must have a measure of piety, a measure of let's say, moderation in things. And that we have not seen. Today, everybody is so concerned about, oh, dollars are going up, this and that. It's very simple. I'm an economist. Whenever supply is short and demand is up, what do you have? you just have to have inflation. It's fundamental. Yeah. So the first thing you should do is to ask yourself, okay, so OPEC says that we need our quota, it's about 2 million barrels a day or more. What are we doing? We're doing less than 1 million barrels. We've even mortgaged the ones that we were going to do before. So you must have to deal with that supply side. And I always, every time I sit back and I'm looking at government officials spouting all manners of theories and all that, the fundamentals are what you need to deal with. You ask yourself, why are we not producing? And then you deal with that problem. That is what I think.
So how do we deal with that problem?
Simple. If anybody tells you that we don't know who steals oil, the ships that are moving up and down, who is breaking this in this day and age, tell him that I said that the person is not saying the truth. Look, technology has made it such that you can track a human being. Is that not so? You can take him out.
Yeah.
The Western world does it every time you hear that, oh, a drone has taken out this man in this house. So if they are able to pinpoint that, which means that the whole Earth has geosatellites everywhere.
Right.
So you can buy, let me say, you can buy space in a satellite to focus on a particular area. And both infrared, which means you can see at night and during the day, except for fog. And of course, we don't have fog in our area. They're just sometimes very, very distant.
Yeah.
So you can track it. See, I went to the office of the Chief of Naval Staff, and I was with him, and I was looking at, he had these screens in his office, and he could see Takwa Bay, see this, see that. And I was seeing it, and I just said to him, oh, sir, I didn't know that you had all this. I said, okay, no, we can track this, we can track that.
Yeah.
And so what's the real problem? I said, oh, there's no linkage between us and NNPC, so we don't know what NNPC... I mean, who is telling us this type of stories? I mean, yeah, it's one country, one president, one... And then you say the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And then you expect us to swallow that. I mean, the same thing happens in the security sector. So, just imagine 200 insurgents on motorcycles riding in a sparsely forested area, which means that they will be raising billions of dust particles in the air. 200, 300, they're all riding on motorcycles.
At the same time.
At the same time, and they are coming from point A to point B. And the security people will tell you, they are unable to know how they are going. How? Who says they don't know? And I was arrested by DSS at one time, before time of NIN. There was no NIN, nothing, you know.
What was your offense?
Eventually, they didn't charge me with anything. They just detained me for some time and they left me. I think all that they were just doing was just, you know, that time we were criticizing the Buhari government and all the things that we said that time is just what the chicken has come home to roost. And all I was saying then was that you can't tell me that a Fulani that is a Bambara not a Nigerian Fulani, will come into this country and kill a Nigerian, and you say you can't protect him because he is your brother. Why? And we're asking those questions. But the point really is this. When I was arrested in front of a barber shop. And when I was...
Where? In Abuja?
In Abuja here. You know, and okay, so they took me to their office, and then I was one of the deputy directors, and they were trying to interrogate me, and I was bantering with them. And I said, how did you even know where I was? Because I was driving myself. I was in a small car. I said, oh, no, we just used your phone to track you. There was no NIN. So now, every phone has a NIN. Everybody who has a phone is connected. There was no BVN. Right now, every bank account has a BVN. And somebody says, oh, we paid ransom of 20 million, and they gave us account, and the money was paid into the account. And the security people, they tell you, oh, they're unable to track who did what. Look, there's just some collusion going on. And there is no concerted effort to deal with it. It's just more or less like a sense of malaise. Okay, everybody says it's not my problem, not my issue, and they all run away from the responsibility.
Let me, you know.
So it goes back to the same thing, like I said at the beginning, leadership.
And
leadership.
Right. Now, I just wanted to deepen the discussion, especially when we're talking about now we have NIN, you know, you were tracked, you know, effectively arrested without even...
No,
NIN.
just my phone number.
Yeah, but my point is that, I don't know whether you observed it, when the kidnappers went to the estate in FCT and abducted an entire family, and it became a major issue. People were even they were doing crowdfunding, you know, to help raise the ransom. A former minister of communication did say on his Twitter page that part of the problem is that the security agencies don't take advantage of the NIN. And I've actually asked him, I said, look, you need to come here and explain that further. But he was very public about it. Now, so that tells you that, to your point, that something is happening. And I've tried to even get him to clarify further. What do you really mean? He said it publicly on his Twitter. He said that the technology that is available, because he was the Minister of Communication, is not being used by the security agency. He said it publicly. I have not had any kind of rebuttal from the security agencies, you know, because, I mean, Pantami is not an ordinary... The guy was the Minister for Digital Communication, and he made that claim. Just to your point, that, so at what point are we going to be serious as a people? And this is the conversation, Senator.
Like I said, there's a general sense of malaise. And it's like, okay, everything is breaking down. So I used to have a former governor of Abia who used to put it very, very, I would say, he would say, I'm not going to be the person to use my head to wage a truck. So what it means is that so many of our people who have responsibilities have decided that they're not going to use their head to wage a truck. That's just it.
Well, that's the point about leadership.
So now the point about leadership is this. You crack heads. Yes. The buck stops on your table, you crack a head.
Yeah.
If he doesn't do his job, you punish him. But what we see is that because you no longer deal with merit, you deal with, it's my brother, it's my cousin, it's my wife's cousin, it's my this, it's my that. So you appoint those people who obviously are not qualified. And what happens? What happens really is that the person fails. And then you raise your hammer. And then you're reminded that it's your wife's cousin. But you appointed him. And so you don't know what to do. And so there's every effort to find all manners of reasons.
Excuses.
Excuses. So the Nigerians, every time are getting tons and tons of excuses for people not doing their job. And I dare say today, Laolu, and to Nigerians, the problem can be solved. And the problem is that if you are responsible for something and you're unable to do your job, you pay the penalty for not doing it. If the penalty means that you have to go to jail, you go to jail. Once that happens and somebody sees that you are a leader that is willing to crack heads in order to make things work for the rest of the polity, you will see a change. I'm telling you, no matter what we say, no matter how we dress it, no matter how we run away from it, basic problem is that there is no penalty for malfeasance, no penalty for well, you won't say that the person, no penalty for somebody not being able to do the job essentially that you're giving him. That's very simple. Well, okay, think about it. What happens? Well, service chiefs come, they go every 4 years. Is that not so?
Right.
So, have you ever gone beyond or below the service chiefs to go down the line? You understand? Because you have to go down the line. And when you go down the line, then you now see all manners of promotions being done for people who don't qualify, people who actually pass promotions exam not being given the position because we have intertwined our public service, the military, the police, they did that on the basis of where you come from, how you get there, who brings you there, and so forth.
You mentioned in your previous response, you mentioned enlightened self-interest. And that notion, you know, I'm sure we all know that it emanated, you know, in the Western world, you know, the idea that the elites figured out that, look, the best way, and one of the expressions of it is the development of rule of law, to say that,
precisely,
look, that it's in our interest. You know, the elite figured out, look, whether I'm in power or I'm not in power, there's going to be a time as an elite, a political elite, that I'm going to be in office. There's going to be a time that I'll be out of office. And they got to the point to say that, look, when I'm in or out of or power or influence, I should get the protection of the law. It actually came out of the enlightened self-interest. My question to you is, what do you think has to happen for the elites to understand that it's in their interest to sort these things out properly?
I can tell you that maybe 80 and 90% of all the elite in Nigeria today know that we're all in trouble. They know. What do you think is keeping people from doing things right? Fear of being caught themselves. Why fear of being caught? Because the elites of Nigeria have developed greed as a desideratum. You steal what you don't need. You take what you don't need. You break the law even when you know that what you're doing is wrong. And so, when you do that, the first this thing is self-protection, and don't understand that self-protection will not help you. It is group protection that actually will help the person.
Yeah.
And so he does that, or she does that, because no longer he that is stealing. Now everybody is stealing. I can see it. And so what happens? When you're supposed to take that decision for the interest of the country, because you are afraid that if you take this decision, it may rebound on you, considering that you have also put your hands in the till. So you shy away and kick the ball further.
So we need sacrificial. we need
so
sacrificial
nobody
leadership.
does. You won't see the leadership that is sacrificial at the moment. I've been in this place for a long time, and in fact, it came to me. I had some colleagues who told me, "Say you don't understand Nigeria," and I said, "No, I actually understand Nigeria. What you mean by I don't understand Nigeria is that you think that nothing will happen. That is 10 years ago, that is 2013.
Yeah.
Okay, we're in 2024.
2014.
2014. Tell me, was there anywhere in Nigeria that you were using fighter jets, helicopter gunships to strafe and to try to eliminate terrorists within the country? Nobody expected that those kind of things were happening. 15 years ago, 16, 17 years ago, was there any time that we felt that people will actually, children will grow up and be up to 10 years inside an internally displaced camp? So the things that we thought couldn't happen are actually happening. So enlightened self-interest of all the elites in Nigeria should be that you should ask yourself question: where are we going? Where we're going, will that protect me? So all that we see now is, so you steal, you get rich, you start looking for foreign how do you put it now, residencies. And they say, if you pay $300,000 to Canada, they can give you, and then everybody wants to steal and get $300,000 and then say, my family will go to Canada. I'm telling you, so a lot of people just do things, and like the late Abaribe said, some Nigerians steal what they don't need. And so it is this cycle of greed and venality that is holding us all hostage. And until we break out of it, and then we ask ourselves, what is actually in the best interest of this country, so that me and you can live in this beautiful place? That's all. So if you ask somebody, and then at the time, look, we asked President Buhari, why would a governor in Nigeria tell us that, that he actually took kola nut to go to somewhere outside this country to beg some people not to kill? I mean, that became, and I asked that question, and then, of course, all manners of stories were being told.
Would that be Governor Rufai?
Yes. And I said, somebody is killing your people. The first thing you do is that you protect your people, not to go and beg. And of course, some people threw open the borders, and other people, and everybody all over West Africa sees Nigeria as a hunting ground where they now come in and do what they can do. And so the more our enlightened self-interest doesn't take us away from actions that destroy the country. Because what it does is that if you are, let's say you're a military man, you're in the lower cadre, and you now find that what you are fighting for is not worth it. What you would do is to say, why should I even bother? That's why I talked about the general malaise that is letting everybody feel that let another person handle that issue.
Well, you know, just to move along, Senator, one of the things that I try to figure out is how to make the political elite responsible. And by that I mean how the people will deliver to them the measures that we signal that this is not acceptable. Now, I mean,
that one will lead to the political leadership. There is a leadership, a political leadership in this country. That leadership, at every point in time, which, for want of a better word, we call the presidency, always signals where they want to go. And you could see it, you could feel it, and you could walk along that. Once the rest of the people feel that they don't have that overweening and overriding ethos, everybody will go their separate and do what they feel. And then, so you now see people carving out empires within the polity, because there's nobody sitting down there whose own destiny is to say, let me drive this. You know, I've not seen it yet. And until I see it, I will still continue to say that we are just a work in progress.
Okay, let's move along, you know, so that we can cover other grounds. And, you know, that discussion, you know, is actually something that is, that worries many of us. But let's move along, like I said. So let's talk about the National Assembly. You have been in the National Assembly since 2007. Now, I want to ask you, you know, you are an opposition senator, you know, representing APGA right now. Do you think that the opposition is playing the role that it ought to play even in National Assembly? And I'll just give you two examples, and I'd like you to reply. Number one, when they were constituting recently the INEC, the boards of INEC, you know, we all saw, many of us were alarmed, you know, that people were bringing their political cronies. You know, and we call him out again. Senator Akpabio brought somebody who was an SSG, or was it chief of staff, in when he was governor, and the guy is now an INEC commissioner. And people say, oh, not just Senator Akpabio, there are others. But we didn't see the opposition, you know, raise hell over that. That's one. The second one was the issue of, now, you just spoke today, you know, and I think very courageously that, look, government has to begin to show some signal of austerity. But it's the same time that you have members of National Assembly purchasing, you know, 160 million worth of SUVs. Now, when you look at those two things, do you think, as an opposition politician, that the opposition politicians in the National Assembly are doing their work, Senator Abaribe?
Well, let me put it this way. Everybody has their style. So you may have the style that is in your face. And that is what I think the opposition ought to be all times. You may lose the argument because it's always a vote, but let the world know, and I agree with you, the opposition in the National Assembly today are not letting the world know that they actually are an opposition. I was an opposition leader. I was minority leader. And I had pitched battles with Senator Lawan when he was listening. Yes. And he knew, because he has also been in the National Assembly and was in opposition at a particular time. So he knew.
Opposition up to 2015.
Precisely. So he knew. So he didn't begrudge me doing that.
Your job.
But then, I guess maybe whenever any of the opposition leadership comes to you, you may ask them.
You are the closest.
Why? Because I am not.
You're not the presiding officer.
I'm not a presiding officer. Neither am I a principal officer. It's the principal officers actually that should lead the charge. The point really is this: if you're a backbencher, so you can raise your hand from here to tomorrow. If he doesn't ask you to speak, you don't speak. You understand? So you have either of two things. It's either you throw your paper in the air and shout and scream and walk away, which of course is not so good, because you're also supposed to show some decorum. Or the leadership that you have will be very assertive. So, but be that as it may, there was a time also that even the, I will say, majority part of the leader was also in opposition to the presidency. Under the Saraki government, they said no to certain things that came. So the question of whether you bring somebody and you pass him or you don't pass him, that I see as nothing but a failure of the National Assembly to do its due diligence. Because whenever something comes, and then you look at it, you seek for information. So you bring up the information right there, and then you show the reasons why. You can be overruled at the end of the day, but then but what we now found was that the opposition was coming from outside of the national, and not us, which is a shame. But
yeah, because
I think that we're not serving the public well. In that respect.
And that point, it's another expression of some of the things that we've said. We don't have a dominant preponderance of the public interest factor.
No, I do not think so. You would just say that you're not seeing it. I don't think that members of the opposition in the National Assembly don't have an idea what people and how people feel. Let me just say that what is going on is that it is not being articulated in such a manner that they may sit inside and discuss it and do that. But then opposition means that you always go outside and make trouble.
Yeah.
You don't sit inside and then say, we have discussed it in house, maybe it's not there, and they will give you reasons and all that. No. I played that role effectively. We will discuss in house, but I'll tell him, I won't agree. Let us go out and I will let Nigerians know that
because it's
don't
important.
agree. It's important. So I think it's just a question of style. It's not that people don't say A or B or C. It's not good. As for bringing people that are obviously partisan and all that, you don't also blame the National Assembly. You also blame the presidency that brings it.
I have just one more question to ask you, and it's about the hardship in the land. As an opposition senator, what do you think the president ought to do to ameliorate the condition? Many of us agree that the removal of the subsidy was an imperative. And most people commend the boldness, although a lot of people think the planning was not quite top-notch. But now that we're in a situation, there's so much hardship. What do you have to say to Mr. President or to this government on how to sort out the issue of the biting hardship in the land?
Instruct everyone that we are in trouble, so that the public perception is that everybody is concerned. When you're in trouble and your ministers are flying with private jets everywhere, you're not conveying to the populace that you're in trouble. Of course, you're doing the right things. You're going to give palliatives. You're going to give transfers of monies and all that. You must do all those things, but first, somebody need to see you. daily worrying about the country. Once they're that disconnect and they don't see you there, when you're telling people that they should accept the difficulties today because it's going to be better tomorrow, what they will tell you is that this was exactly what Buhari was telling us. And things are getting worse now than even when Buhari was here. And so at what point will we stop hearing this story? So, perception in politics, in public policy, is much more important than every other thing. It is the perception that people have. If they look at you and they say, look at Laulu, is nice in his business, how is he going to say he's hungry? No, they won't believe you. So the government is not giving the impression that things are really, they'll just mouth it. And people are doing all manners of things. And you want to wonder, if people are doing all manners of things and people are going around and they are partying and they are doing ABC and all that, what do you expect? And this is very critical. There is the impression going around in all the ministries, agencies and all that. And President Tinubu better hear this. So many people are running all over those places and saying that they are being sent to get this contract or that contract, and they will call the name of this person or the name of that person, giving the impression that everybody just came to say, "Where my own?"
To collect.
So, and it's pervasive. That's what I'm talking about. Perception. It's pervasive. And everyone says, "What? Wait a minute, we're in trouble. So why are these people going around? Why is everybody acting as if all they just came to do is to take? How will the country survive after?" So, perception. Perception. Thank you.
Thank you so much, the most distinguished Senator Ejinaya Abaribe. Thank you for your time and thank you for your views. Well, the conversation continues. We will continue to push the issues, and Mr. President, the buck stops at your table, and this is going to be about what you did or what you failed to do.